Welcome back to the world today. Now let's give you an update from the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Russia's defense ministry says that Moscow began exercises with the Yars intercontinental ballistic missile system and several thousands of troops in what is likely to be seen as another attempt by Moscow to show off its nuclear strength. President Vladimir Putin has aimed to make this Yars missile system, which replaced the Topol system, part of Russia's invincible weapons and the mainstay of the ground-based components of its nuclear arsenal. The drills involve the strategic missile forces, comprehensive control checking of the Omsk missile formation, together with the command and staff exercise with the Novorossiysk missile formation equipped with a Yars system. The ministry also adds that during the exercises, the Yars mobile systems will conduct maneuvers in 3 Russian regions. Ukraine's military has said the forces are relentless in their attempts to capture the bombed-out eastern Ukrainian towns of Bakhmut and Avdiivka, but we're not making progress there. But a pro-Moscow official said the Russians are advancing. The general staff of the Ukrainian armed forces said in a statement that the 2 towns, along with other communities in the industrial Donetsk region, are the epicenter of Russia's attacks. A Ukrainian serviceman in the besieged city of Bakhmut filmed himself saying the town was under constant shelling as Ukrainian forces kept control of part of it. But Denis Pushlin, the Russian installed leader of the part of Donetsk region under Moscow's control, said that most Ukrainian forces had pulled back from the metals factory in eastern Bakhmut, and Russian forces were already making progress there. The Kremlin says that Russia's confrontation with hostile states and what it has called a hybrid war being waged against it by the West should last a long time. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov made the prediction when asked how long what Russia calls its special military operation in Ukraine would last.
Войну в широком контексте.
If you're referring to the war in a broader context, it is a confrontation with hostile states, a hybrid war against our country, then it's going to last for a long time. And here, we need to be resolute and be self-confident and consolidate around the president.
More than 1,700 military personnel took part in the multinational military exercise hosted by the United States military in Greifenbach in the southern part of Germany. 18 countries, including personnel from Germany, took part in that exercise that also occurred simultaneously on training grounds in Denmark and in Romania.
This year, for the first time, we're incorporating a number of new elements, including operating with 18 different nations on a live mission-partnered communications environment. We're operating simultaneously here in Grafenwehr, Germany. Also, the mission that you just witnessed occurred simultaneously up in Oksbold, Denmark, and down in Romania, a training area there as well. All done via distributed communications simultaneously across the theater from the Baltic all the way to the Black Sea. Our alliance consists of 30 nations, and with the hopeful ratification of the membership of Sweden and Finland, it will be 32. It's important that all of our nations are able to operate together and seamlessly, and we rehearse and practice things in peacetime so that if we ever have to work together in combat, that we'll be able to do so without having to learn on the fly.
U.S. President Joe Biden said he is concerned about the possibility that Russia will send tactical weapons, nuclear weapons, to Belarus. Speaking to reporters at the White House, Mr. Biden said that they haven't done that yet. That's dangerous kind of talk he's using, and it's very worrisome. Russian President Vladimir Putin said that Russia had struck a deal with neighboring Belarus to station tactical nuclear weapons on its territory. But Belarus confirmed it will host Russian tactical nuclear weapons, saying that the decision was in response to years of Western pressure, including sanctions and what it calls a military buildup by NATO members near its borders. Although Mr. Putin did not say when the deployment will take place, this announcement appears to pave way for Moscow's first deployment of nuclear weapons outside its borders since 1991 collapse of the Soviet Union. Meanwhile, Poland's Prime Minister says that Belarus will certainly face further European sanctions due to the Russian plan to station these tactical nuclear weapons in the country as tensions continue to hit the highs. He also said the daily talks with other European leaders about the 11th package of sanctions against Russia and that it will include more measures targeting Belarus and a close ally of Moscow.
Ten krok, na który zdecydowała się Rosja, czyli
This step taken by Russia, which for now is an announcement of the deployment of nuclear weapons in Belarus, will certainly lead to the announcement of additional sanctions. The level of sanctions will be much more severe for Lukashenko regime. We border directly with Belarus and therefore in Poland. We are considering tightening the parameters of passenger and freight traffic as part of our bilateral relations in order to send a clear signal to Lukashenko that we do not accept sanctions that serve Russia in its aggressive actions in Ukraine and its aggressive actions against Poland and against other EU countries.
Łukaszenki, że nie akceptujemy takich działań, które de facto służą Rosji.
Well, on the other hand, Japan's Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi has said that Tokyo will stay vigilant against Moscow's military operations, and that's after Russia's Navy fired supersonic anti-ship missiles at a mock target in the Sea of Japan. The P-270 Moskets missile, which has the NATO reporting name as SSN-22 Sunburn, in a medium-range supersonic cruise missile of Soviet origin, capable of destroying a ship within a range of up to 120 kilometers. The firing of missiles is coming just 1 week after two Russian strategic bomber planes capable of carrying nuclear weapons flew over the Sea of Japan at more than 7 hours in what Moscow has said is a planned flight.
We are aware that the Russian Ministry of Defense announced on March 28 that missile ships of the Pacific Fleet conducted cruise missile launch training in the Sea of Japan. As Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues, Russian forces are also becoming more active in the Far East, including Japan's vicinities. The Japanese government will continue to monitor these movements of the Russian military.
The head of the UN nuclear watchdog, Rafael Grossi, has said his attempt to broker a deal to protect Ukraine's Russian-occupied Zaporizhia nuclear plant was still alive and that he was adjusting the proposals to seek a breakthrough. Mr. Grossi has been pushing for a safety zone to be created at the plant to prevent a possible nuclear disaster, as Moscow and Kiev have accused each other of shelling the site of the power station since Russia invaded Ukraine in February last year.
We are making some adjustments on the proposals that we are putting on the table, and I'm confident that it might be possible to establish some form of protection, perhaps not emphasizing so much the idea of a zone, but on the protection itself, what people should do or shouldn't do to protect, instead of having a territorial concept. I'm not giving up in any way. I think, on the contrary, we need to multiply our efforts. We need to continue. If the reservoir level goes down beyond a certain level, then you don't have water to cool down the reactors. And we have seen, especially in January, that the levels of the water were going down significantly. They recovered somehow in the past few weeks. We had an agreed route, and all of a sudden that route was not agreed anymore. One side was proposing a route, the other was proposing another route, and it took an awful lot of time to come to an agreement.
The steady stream of wounded soldiers into a clinic for artificial limbs in Kiev is a stark reminder of the human cost of Russia's war on Ukraine, where military casualties are a secret closely guarded by both sides. Clinic owner Nagenda Parashir has 25 specialists at the 9 clinics he owns in Ukraine. The busiest in Kiev and Lviv will see 20 to 30 patients in just 1 month. But now it is 3 times that number, and he says that he needs up to 75 more specialists to cope with the pressure. For Ukrainian serviceman Dmytro Zilko, his prosthetic limb has given him a new lease of life. His right leg was amputated after a shell landed nearby during fighting in the eastern town of Bakhmut.
Для нас велика журба це навіть одна.
There really is a shortage of prosthetists, because there are a huge number of people requiring prosthetic treatment coming in every day. If there is a counter-offensive, the frontline battles will be even more severe. The number of patients will increase. I think it will be great to have more prosthetists, even those from abroad. We will provide everyone with prosthetic limbs, but some may have to wait in a line for some time.
Але це вже будуть тоді терміни певні, тобто людина може очікувати певний час.
The International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach defended plans to get Russian and Belarusian athletes back into competitions as neutral, saying that their participation works despite the ongoing war in Ukraine. The IOC sanctioned Russia and Belarus after the February 22 invasion, but it is now eager to see athletes come back across all sports and have a chance to qualify for the Paris 2024 Olympics.
And what is maybe most important is has changed that participation of athletes with Russian and Belarusian passports in competitions and in international competitions works. We see this almost every day in a number of sports. We see it most prominently in tennis, but we see it also in cycling. We see it in some table tennis competitions. We see it in ice hockey. We see it in handball. We see it in football and in other leagues there in United States but also in Europe. And we also see it in other continents. And in none of these competitions, a security incident, has been happening, or we haven't been informed about. It's even that the governments on whose territory the competitions are taking place, they are issuing visas with very few exceptions, and that in other countries they're even issuing working permits where it's necessary, for these players and athletes.
Renowned Russian conductor Valery Gergiev is taking to the stage alongside the famous Markanze Orchestra for a trio of concerts at the National Center for Performing Arts in Beijing, and that's the first major show featuring international performers at the iconic venue since the start of COVID-19 pandemic. The concerts, which are being held nightly from Monday to Wednesday, are among the first to feature overseas musicians at the National Center for Performing Arts since this pandemic. At the press conference on Monday before the first of his shows back in China, the decorated conductor said he felt privileged, happy and honored to be back on stage.
The partnership between Mariinsky and NCPA, also between me personally and Chinese musicians, going back quite many years. From the very first days of a birth of NCPA, I was here, and of course I feel like, in many ways, like I come home.